So fairly recently, my mom found this guitar at the recycling center. It looked like somebody had thrown it away, and she held on to it for me for when I could pick it up. And what I'll be doing is just kind of going through the condition that I found it in and doing a couple upgrades and seeing if I can make it a playable guitar. Now, I have to admit, when my mom told me she found a guitar that somebody had thrown out, I didn't have very high hopes. I kind of figured the neck would be broken. But after, handling this guitar for a little bit and getting it back in tune, it's actually in surprisingly good condition. I'm sort of shocked that they threw it out. Um, Overall, I mean, it had all six strings to begin with. There was a couple small things. So if you look at the bridge saddle here on the low E string, you'll see that one of the string height adjustment screws is missing. That is how it came, so that should be an easy fix. It was missing the tone knob. It's got a master volume, master tone. Again, super easy fix. But all the electronics is working. Plays okay. I mean, it's got really old strings on it, so it doesn't sound great. Strap was still attached, surprisingly. The input jack, or more accurately, the output jack here. Actually, that hex nut, I don't know if you can see it. Hopefully my camera will fix itself here. That actually was not there holding the jack in place. So when I first tried to plug it in, it was kind of hard. The plug actually kept going back into the guitar. So I took that nut that's usually found on the inside and brought it to the outside just to hold that in place. So it doesn't normally stick out that much. But yeah, so I just did that so I could mess with the electronics and see if it actually worked, which it did, which I was really surprised at. The finish overall's got that kind of red color. You can see it's very smudged and dirty, so I'm definitely gonna have to polish it up. But one of the things I looked at was the frets, and they're in surprisingly good condition. I didn't find any dead spots. I didn't find any low points. So fretboard's very dry. It'll have to be cleaned up and have some lemon oil put on it. But overall, again, no major damage to it. As is typical with guitars in this price range, they have the absolute cheapest, worst tuners on the planet. I'm not sure who makes these tuners, but I'm pretty sure they're made out of the same stuff that like the little wrappers for sticks of gum are. I mean, it's just they're awful. They don't hold tune at all. I'll show you that later. But neck pocket looks decent. I did find a small crack here. Again, hopefully my camera will fix its focus. There we go. A small crack there, but I don't know how deep it goes, and the neck seems to be holding in place all right. I mean, a good bolt-on neck is good enough. Single pickup design, and it seems to be working. What I'll be doing with this guitar, though, is fixing it up, adding a few upgrades. Obviously, you got to upgrade those tuners because they are absolutely terrible. I'm actually going to be swapping out the pickup here for a real good pickup. A Seymour Duncan JB SH4, or a TB4, technically. It's a trembucker, so it's spaced correctly for this kind of bridge. See, it's like a six-saddle, almost like a Fender Strat style bridge, but there's no tremolo, which actually makes it a little bit easier to work with and hold in tune better when it's done. Since the saddles here look really worn out and gross, and one of them's missing a screw, I figured I'm just going to replace all the saddles too and just, start with a fresh bridge, clean it up quite a bit as well. Obviously a lot of polishing to be done. I have new electronics to go on the guitar, including a coil split. So I'm going to put a push-pull pot right here. So when you pull the pot up, it'll click, and the humbucker, which is usually like a two-coil design, one of those coils will be shut off to get a single coil sound, similar to what you'd find on like a stock vintage-style Stratocaster or Telecaster. So that'll be my first experience doing push-pull pots. I figure I might as well experiment on this cheapo guitar before I try that on one of my more expensive guitars. But it should be a really fun project to work on. I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes and really just to see how much playability I can get out of it. Anyway, there's going to be some clips coming up soon of me actually playing this guitar now that I know that it works. I'll try to do some clean and some distorted to give you an idea of what, if any, versatility I can get out of this pickup and the electronics. And then I'll do a sort of a before and after when I swap all the electronics out and clean up the guitar, and we'll see how it sounds. Honestly, I think even just like when I change the strings, because these are the strings it came with, these are pretty gross and disgusting. I don't know if you can tell, but the high E string is basically black with dirt and grime, so it's pretty nasty. I might have to get a tetanus shot after playing, but that's okay. Once I clean this thing up, it'll sound a lot better, and yeah, it might actually be a functional guitar. Yeah, so it doesn't hold tune too well right now. But it works. It plays. So I figured before I actually open up the guitar and start working on it, I can give you an idea of what I'll be doing to the guitar to sort of bring it up to what I think it could be. Again, the number one thing that I'm going to be working on is just swapping out those old terrible tuners for something from a reputable brand. Now, truth be told, I'm not a huge fan of Ping in general, although honestly any tuner by any brand is going to be better than what's on there. So, you know, if I really wanted to do it up nice, I'd probably use Grover tuners. The Rotomatics are really my favorite, but this will do. You know, I wasn't looking to break the bank. Just wanted something that would be, you know, decent at holding tunes. So those are going to be the new tuning heads. I'm also going to throw my favorite brand of strings on there. This is the pickup that I'm going to be swapping out. I was able to find it in white, which is a really nice touch because that'll basically be a drop-in replacement. And it should sound really nice too. And then I did buy some capacitors just in case. Not sure what is in there in terms of electronics right now, but if it's a really old guitar, might as well swap that out too while I'm in there. This is the push-pull pot that's going to be going into the volume knob. And that'll just help me, again, turn this pickup into basically half a pickup with what's called a coil split. So basically turning off the north end of it and just having the south end active. Get a bit of a different tone. Never really done it before, so should be fun to work on. Those are the new bridge saddles. Like I said, I'm going to be replacing the full set. Make it nice and shiny and everything. And that'll probably help add to the tuning stability as well. And then finally, just more for aesthetics than anything else, 2 new white knobs to go on there. So can make sure that that looks nice and uniform. And again, was able to find them in white. And while I'm at it, might as well show you some of the tools I'm using for this. I have a soldering kit right here. Has a couple accessories. It's a decent soldering iron, should be good enough for what we need. Did come with some extra wire as well. I think it's 20 or 22 gauge. 2 different colors though, so if I need it, it's there. It's kind of nice. Also have some guitar polish, as well as some lemon oil for the fretboard. My trusty screwdriver, string winder, string peg winder I should say. 2 different polish cloths, both of which are filthy, but at least it'll give me some options. Some wire strippers, needle nose pliers, and wire cutters. And that should be everything we need for this. So, here we go. So first thing we're going to do is remove these really old, rusty, gross strings. What that'll allow us to do is obviously take the tuners off, but also while the strings are off, we can do a lot of different things like obviously cleaning the guitar, reapplying some lemon oil to the fretboard, and changing out the bridge saddle. So it's going to give us access to the rest of the guitar basically. So usually what I like to do is I'll take a string winder and I'll loosen up the string quite a bit until it basically can't hold a note, and then I'll just snip it off somewhere in the middle. It's just an easier way to take off really old gross strings, so I'll be doing that. That should be good. On this guitar, by the way, this string happens to be put on the wrong way, so you're going to see me turn this one the other way. Yeah, it's just one of those weird things. See, it goes up, should go that way. Always sounds very sad de-stringing a guitar. Alright, those should be loose enough. Again, they can't really hold the note, so now I can snip them off. much safer to snip them off when there's no tension. Don't have to worry about a string flying in your face. Okay, so now that I took the strings off, I have a better chance to look at what I'm working with. Got a chance to take some of the dust off of it, get all in the little crevices. Next up is going to be removing some of the hardware and just polishing up the guitar a little bit, giving it some of its luster again. Then after that, I'll start the removal of these terrible, awful tuners that need to go in the trash immediately. Okay, so I'm about to remove the bridge saddles now. There's a screw in the back holding it in place, so I'm basically going to back the screw out all the way. Then I can actually polish the bridge plate here and shine that up, and then I'll throw the new saddles on there. And there we go. There's a spring on the front of it. Add some tension to the saddle. And that one's removed. So do that 5 more times, you're good to go. So now you can see I removed all the saddles from the bridge. So it's really just the bridge plate here, which as you can see is also very gross and needs to be cleaned up. So I might actually just remove that to get better access to it, clean it up before I put it back on. And then while that's off, I'll end up polishing the body. So I removed the screws from the bridge plate. I'm going to remove that now. And you can see underneath that it used to actually be a very nice smooth finish. And right there you see the ground wire that runs to the bridge for all the electronics. More on that a little bit later. But now I can start actually polishing this guitar up a little bit more. So already looking a lot nicer. Didn't do the greatest polishing job in the world, but does look a bit cleaner. They got rid of most of the dust and most of the gross stuff that was on it, so it's a little bit cleaner now. On to the headstock, which we're going to polish next, and then finally get rid of those tuners while we're at it. Alright, so I got the old tuning pegs off and polished up the headstock quite a bit. You can see the old tuning pegs here. And I'll show you why I absolutely hate these. First of all, the casing on them is just about the thinnest metal. I don't know if my camera's focusing right now, but it's the thinnest metal you could possibly ask for. It's really just for cosmetics. And then this is the actual tuner. It's cheap, cheap, cheap. It sucks. It does not hold tune at all. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm actually just like spinning this around by the tuning peg, which should tell you with how much play there is, that it's not very good at holding tune. There's a lot of play. So, yeah, terrible tuners. That needs to just die in a fire. So, that's those. Next up, we're going to be applying some lemon oil to the fretboard to add some moisture, to keep the wood nice and healthy. So hopefully it hasn't been too long since the last time that was done, but we'll have to see. I have to say I do kind of like the striking grain that you can see in the rosewood fretboard. It's pretty nice. And while I'm waiting for the lemon oil to dry, I'm just going to show you a quick shot of some of the frets. Again, doesn't look like it was played too heavily. I'm not seeing any low spots. I mean, the frets probably aren't perfect, but it's certainly still playable. So again, kind of baffled that somebody threw this guitar. You can see it really changed drastically in terms of color when I put the lemon oil on it. So I think it was very, very dry when it was found. But we'll see how much of that moisture it retains and see what kind of color it takes on once it's done. Alright, so now I'm getting ready to install the tuners, and I'm not sure if you can see, but it's a sealed casing, quite a bit heavier than the previous tuners, so much better quality there, better materials being used. Now the thing about it, if you notice, the shaft here, and especially this part here, is actually a bit larger than the hole that was previously drilled. So what I'm going to be doing there is actually taking a hand reamer, widening out the hole, and then I'm having it fit. And then once it's fit, I'll be able to situate it right and drill the pilot hole for the mounting screw to hold it in place so that when there's a string on it, it's not going to spin freely. It'll actually help anchor it, and it'll be able to hold much better there. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and finish installing the tuners before we go on to the next step. Well, I finished installing the new tuners from Ping, And for the most part, it went pretty well, except that on the very last one I installed, I don't know if you can see, but you'll see that there's a screw here holding them all in place. They don't spin. On this last one, there's a screw missing. Reason is the top of one of the screws snapped off as I was drilling it in, and so now it's stuck in there, and there's not enough screws sticking out to really hold it in place. So, all right, so I got the new tuners on there. However, as I mentioned before, one of the screws actually snapped off. So what I want to be doing today is actually digging out that old screw and putting in one of the leftover screws from the previous set of tuners. So I'll have to actually drill it out, fill it up, and then re-drill the pilot hole. While I'm at it, I'm going to throw some toothpicks and wood glue in these remaining holes just to fill that in and make that look a little nicer. So we'll see how that goes. So yeah, rotary tool and a couple drill bits should help do the job. Well, I was able to get the screw out, so you can see that that is what just came out of the guitar. As you can see, it left a pretty large hole in there, so I'm going to fill that in with a wooden dowel, which might actually be a little bit bigger than the hole, which is fine. I can always sand that down if I need to. But yeah, I'm going to refill that and then basically start over. Alright, you can see I put toothpicks and wood glue in all the old holes, keeping the new ones open, and then I filled that large hole that I had to make before to get the screw out with a wooden dowel, also with some wood glue. It took a little bit of sanding to get that to the right diameter, but it's a pretty decent fit. So once the glue dries, I can start cutting off all these little stems and then sand it down. You should have a nice finish. Alright, so just finished filling all the holes here. It does look like the pilot holes for the tuners, the new tuners got filled in, but it's actually just a little bit of sawdust, so I can just poke that out. And I'll re-drill the pilot hole here, and then reinstall the tuners. We should be all set there. It looks a lot cleaner. And everything went well. New tuners are now installed, and now when the time is right, I can string the guitar and it'll actually hold tune. Not too bad. Okay, so next up I'm going to be taking a look at the electronics and taking that old pickup out. While I'm at it, I'm going to be spray painting this to a more white color to match the pick guard, the knobs, and the new pickup as well. I think it's probably originally white, but it kind of faded to sort of a cream color, so we're just going to touch that up a little bit. And then we'll pull out the old hardware and put some new stuff in. Okay, so that looks like a regular rat's mess of stuff. Of course, I dropped one of the screws in there. But if we take a look in here, see, pretty simple setup. One volume, one tone. No pickup selector to worry about, so pretty straightforward. You see the output jack is right out here. Looks like the pickup wire, I believe, is actually in black, with the gray being the ground. I'll double check that in just a second, but yeah, it looks like that is the ground right there. Actually, I believe I have it reversed. Looks like the gray is the pickup wire, the black is the ground. So again, pretty simple setup, one volume, one tone. See the capacitor over here. Not sure what wire goes to what. I think the gray might be the pickup and the black is probably the ground to the bridge, if I remember correctly. But either way, I'll pull the old pickup out and unsolder everything and install the new pot. Alright, so now to uninstall the existing pickup. I'm going to start actually by just taking the pickup rings off, since we have to paint those anyway. So just 4 simple screws, Phillips head, nothing too crazy. And we'll see what kind of pickup is even in here. Alright, so if we pull this guy up a little bit, you can see the gray wire that we saw before is the pickup wire going to the volume pot, so we will take that out. Man, that is a cheapo pickup. Also looks very old. But yeah, we'll be getting rid of that, painting the pickup ring, and then throwing the new, much better Seymour Duncan pickup in there. So that'll sound a lot nicer. Gonna take the pickup out of the ring first. Undoing these screws on either side. Each of these screws has a spring. So they basically keep the pickup at a certain height, so it's adjustable depending on what height you need the pickup at. But we're just going to take those out. The new pickup actually has a new set of screws and springs, so those will be nice and shiny, whereas these ones are kind of old looking, starting to show their age. So we're just going to replace those to make the fit and finish look a little nicer. Alright, next up we're going to be taking some of the old wires off of the old volume pot that we're going to be replacing. So I have my soldering iron. Alright, so there's the old pot. So as you can see, this is the push-pull pot, and basically the way it works is when you pull it up, it activates. Push it down, deactivates. When it's activated, it's going to use one of the coils of the pickup instead of the entire pickup to give it a slightly different sound. Then here it operates like a normal volume pot. So it'll actually still operate like a normal volume pot in the up position, but sort of just having an extra switching option within the same electronic device. So kind of cool. Alright, so just to show you guys real quick, here's the tone pot. I actually removed all the wires off of it because I'm going to do a little bit of tweaking with how it's set up. So figured might as well start from scratch. Got the capacitor right here. I'm using the needle nose pliers because it may or may not still be a little warm. Got the output jack here, all wired up and ready to go. And here's the old volume pot. Can you see, since I'm throwing it out, I just kind of cut the ends off of each of the wires that was connected to it. So I had plenty of wire left to work with, so I just wanted to kind of get it out of there. But that is the old volume pot. And here's what we're going to be starting with today. So here's the actual pot itself, and then you can see the push-pull part works on this section here with these 6 lugs. Alright, so I just finished wiring everything up, as you can probably see. So all that's left to do now is reinstall the pots, put the pickup in place, and then basically throw on the new bridge sails and restring it and see how it sounds. Alright, so as you can see, everything's wired up. Got the new pickup in there. Pickup ring didn't come out great with the paint, but it'll do. Got the new knobs on there along with the coil split on the volume knob. Restrung it, set it up, did the intonation with the new bridge saddles. It's probably a little wonky in terms of intonation, but I did the best I could considering. And then, yeah, I guess it's just time to plug it in and play it, see how it sounds. I did test it first just to make sure that the electronics were working to some degree by using the guitar tuner and just making sure that it gave out some kind of signal. So that's a good sign that it seemed to pick up both regular and with the coil split on. It was able to pick up the notes. Figured I'd better test it on the guitar tuner before I risk my amp. But let's see how it sounds. Just to show you guys, the coil split is working. So right now it is in humbucker mode. So if you listen carefully, means both of these coils are active. When I pull up on the volume knob, the bottom one is no longer active, but this one still is. So that's humbucker mode. That's single coil mode. So that is actually working as intended. That's a good sign. Let's see how it sounds. Now for single coil mode, on clean. So one of the things you'll notice about this is that when it's in humbucker mode, it's quite a bit louder. Again, utilizing 2 coils gives twice as much, theoretically, of an output. So, hear that. You hear a volume drop here, now that it's in single coil mode. See how it kind of drops when it's in single coil mode. So, just one thing to note. Let's see how it sounds distorted. Again, not sure if you can hear, but a lot of hum coming. That's why the humbucker was invented. So here, super quiet. Here, quite a bit noisier. But let's see how it plays. for the bend test. So if you remember before, I bent each string around the 12th fret really hard and saw how stable the tuning was. It didn't fare too well before, so we're going to try again today. So not perfect, but pretty good. So overall, much better than it was before. So I think it was worth it. Can you believe somebody wanted to throw this out? Anyway, I'm pretty impressed with how it came out. The fit and finish probably could be a little better, but overall, sounds a lot better than I thought it would. It actually holds tune now with the new tuning pegs and the bridge saddles. Electronics came together pretty well. I'm actually proud of myself for trying the coil splitting. Never did that before, so that was a new experience. But yeah, pretty versatile now for a guitar that was essentially thrown away. I still can't believe that. But overall, there are some more things I could do to make it play a little better, like work on the frets a bit more. But I'm pretty happy with how it came out. And considering I got the guitar for free and spent somewhere between $100 and $200 on parts, not too bad. Anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed.